The number one question I have for you, as human beings, what do we owe to children?
We owe children a place to live, food, shelter, clothing on their backs, teaching them how to uh, learn how to live in society as productive people, as people that can give to other people. That's what I think.
You are old now, so I ask you these questions. As adults, should we allow children to have failures as much as success?
Of course, that's the way they learn. But when they do have failures, try to be there for them so they understand that, okay, my parents were there even though I failed. They still encouraged me to keep on, you know? Not say, oh, you screwed up, you're never gonna amount to nothing. That's crazy. You don't do that to your child. You encourage them to keep on going, keep on trying. You know?
Do you believe that children have background knowledge for experiences to make a decision?
It depends. As like what kind of background knowledge are you talking about?
Okay, let's take the concept of good and bad. How do children acquire knowledge of good and bad?
By watching their parents. What they do, they that reflects on the kid, and he says, say he sees a parent doing something bad, and he thinks, oh, that's probably it's okay to do it then, huh? But it depends on the kid too. It depends on the child. Okay, the child might not understand what he's doing at a certain age, but at a certain age, i.e., to me, 12 years old on up, you know what's good and bad. Okay, you know what's good and bad.
So you think all guardians and parents should model for children?
They should model for children. Okay, because that's where they get their sense of right and wrong. Okay, if their parents are not doing the right thing, that child is going to pick that up and say, all right, I can do that just like my mom or dad does, you know? And it's okay. No, it's not. You know? It's the old saying like they used to say, do as I say, not as I do.
Hmm.
Which is not right to say that, but a lot of parents still do that. Do as I say, not as I do. You know? That messes up the child because he's like, well, I'm not supposed to do that, but you can do it? No. You do the right thing, and sometimes the right thing is going to hurt. Sometimes the right thing is telling the truth, regardless if it hurts the person.
So you think the fundamental basis of the truth should be told even if it hurts someone?
Yes, even if it hurts somebody.
Do you think that children should be taught to sacrifice themselves or those within their families to gain memento for the moment?
Oh man, I honestly don't know that one. If the child tries to gain momentum, like you said, regardless of trying to, telling the truth, and yet doing better than the family members that are there, i.e., his siblings. That sometimes brings out a lot of animosity toward each other in the sibling rivalry, you know, and that's very hard to I don't know address, I guess, to make sure that they they understand that, look, okay, your brother's doing great, but you can do the same.
Hello. Go ahead.
You can do the same, You just can't let one child, take over everything, and then he he kind of makes the other kids feel like crap.
Mm.
You know?
So, in a way, we're fortunate. We have 4 or 5 generations living, and extended family members, the older and the younger generations, they share a pattern of learning. Do you know what I mean by that?
Not really. What do you mean?
Okay, a pattern by learning. Let's say that the 2-year-old will learn established moral compass behaviors from the 5th generation, which is in their 80s. Do you believe that's important for extended family members to share those type of situations?
I do, because, like, for example, like me, I'm in my 60s. I'm old school. I believe in in spanking a child when he does wrong, not beating him. No, not beating the hell out of him. No, spanking him where it belongs, and then tell him why you're spanking him, because you did this wrong. You're not supposed to do that.
Like,
You hurt somebody.
what would constitute a spanking?
Hitting your brother or your sister or your other siblings, or hurting somebody that just for the hell of it, you know, or destroying somebody's property that you weren't
So it
supposed
would
to
have to be a severe behavior
do. Severe behavior.
to
Yes,
get a spanking on the butt.
yes.
I see.
You have now you have scoldings where you can scold the person. You don't have to beat them, but scold them sternly. Now, if he doesn't, I call it, comply to your stern, you know, talking, and you have no other choice, yeah, spank him. I give you a good example. Okay, my sons, when they were younger, you know, one of them liked to throw a tantrum. You know, and for no reason, he loved to throw the tantrums. My wife finally had got fed up with it. She goes, you know what? Deal with it. Please help me. And so I did. I did the way I was taught, the way my parents taught me. You know, you're gonna throw a tantrum, okay? Goes for what? Why are you throwing a tantrum for? Because you're not getting your way? No, that's wrong. No. So I picked him up, spanked him right on his butt, and I told him, don't you ever do that anymore. And guess what? He didn't do it no more. But he needed somebody to tell him that that was wrong, okay? Not try to console, oh, don't do that, don't do that. No. Sometimes you got to be really stern with the kids, okay? Not to the point where you're going to beat the crap out of them, no. But to tell them, give them good, firm discipline.
All right. I don't want you to have no prejudgmental disposition, which I know you're going to have, because you and I have never really discussed
Uh-huh.
these these things publicly.
Uh-huh.
You know who John Walsh is?
Yeah, of course I know who John Walker is.
His child was murdered.
Yes, his child was murdered, decapitated.
Yes. What do you think that John Walsh has as a universal spokesperson for those in need,
What do you mean?
for for victims of crimes? What does he have in his behaviors, in his attitudes, in his
Well,
beliefs?
to me, okay, he had to probably hit rock bottom, okay, in order to, I don't know if he had compassion or some type of, compassion or I call it forgiveness for the person that did that to his son. Okay, but when you're when a child like his child
His
was
name was
killed,
Adam.
no, his name was Adam. His son was killed, and not just killed. He was butchered.
Yes, he was
Okay,
butchered.
I mean that right there in itself. I think if I had been the father and I found out who he did it, I would probably go off on him. You know, but he had to have some type of control. You know, he had to have some type of control to forgive this person and then to forgive himself because he probably thought that it was, you know, his fault for his kid, you know, being killed. You know.
Okay. His wife was in Sears, and she left Adam near the gaming
Yeah.
area
Yeah.
because back in that time they had gaming displays where
Yeah. Yeah.
children could play.
You know, and he had probably had to forgive his wife for letting him be. You know.
Did you ever hear John Walsh throw his ex-wife or wife at the time?
Under the bus? No.
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 If your child is, and this is your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
if your child is murdered or missing, should you sacrifice the other parent?
No, even though the parent might have been at the wrong, okay, but that parent is still is hurting just like you are. But there's a lot of people, a lot of parents that will sacrifice that parent because you should have been taking care of them. You know, you should have been watching them. You know, shoulda, coulda, woulda. You know.
So, if your child's missing and you're trying to establish a law or a bill and you want it to go nationally. Let's say, for instance, in Tennessee they have Haven's Law. And you probably don't know who the Haven is.
No.
Okay. But her parents, her guardians, never went out and ruled against the other family members.
Mm-hmm.
They never spoke against the other family members.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, you and I have never spoken about this, but there is you're familiar with Sebastian?
Yeah.
Okay. In comparison to Haven and the Amber Alert, which was established because of a missing child, John Walsh's Missing in America or America's Most Wanted, and all these different spokespeople, and the laws that's been passed. Sebastian's law is a little different.
Why is it different?
Okay. The way it's being focused upon is different. First of all, you have to look at what has been done to the child's name. Okay? This you and I have spoken about. John Walsh, Haven's guardians, Amber's parents, they never spoke nastily about anyone.
Mm-hmm.
They had a moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
They never threw anyone under the bus.
Yeah.
They chose the better of all missing and their particular issue to take the betterment of society over the personal reflection or their complexion over family members.
Mm-hmm.
In Sebastian's laws, in Sebastian's situation, so much indignity and so much disrespect has been shown to that teenage boy. You know, I have spoken to you over the last two and a half years that he's been called from the belly of Lucifer by a YouTuber. No one spoke against it, but you're aware of what I've done about it. They have disrespected his family, Even his family members, they've disrespected each other. Other individuals have accused him of having intimate relations with his sister Faith and his mother, which is a lie. There are no police reports. There are no incident reports where Sebastian has done anything like that.
Well, you see, all that right there is hearsay. If you don't have facts, like you normally say, do you have receipts?
Do you have a
receipts? Do
receipt?
you have facts about that he did this? Do you have facts? Then you need to stop saying those things. And basically, you need to just shut up. Okay? Stop putting things into other people's minds that are not true. Okay? That are not true. Okay? If you don't have the facts in black and white, okay, stop it. Okay? Stop destroying other families members. Stop destroying that young man, Sebastian, saying that he was this and this and that. No. Do you have facts? If you don't have facts, then shut up.
Can you imagine being Sebastian and watching the destruction of his own entity from the streets of social media platforms? How do you think that he would feel?
Honestly, I don't know. Honestly, we don't know if the young man's alive or dead. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because nobody's really looking for the young man. If they are, they're looking at little by little, not too much. Okay, you know, all they want to do is make money off the poor kid's name. Okay, you know, people are trying to help and looking for him, and then you get other people. No, you can't do that. Why? Because basically what it is, because they're not making the money, and you're taking away from them, and it's bullshit. Okay.
So my question is this. Sebastian's Law, in my opinion, would be a nice addition to a federal base for CPS reports on the abuse and neglect of children nationally. However, consideration must be made for two major points in my belief system. Number one, with so much disrespect shown to Sebastian in general from the general population, even though many people have not said a word against Sebastian, some of the key players have. More emphasis have been placed upon the family members instead of the good of Sebastian's name. And the point is this. If you cannot state good things about Sebastian Rogers, then you should not be endorsing or promoting a law where you have yourself rain down Sebastian and his family members. Because when people look at that, if that law right now it's not a law. It's not even been brought to the legislative body of Tennessee. But here's the thing. When you are looking at passing something like that and you're being reflective of what it took to get there, you're going to be under scrutiny for the way that you presented that child's case. And you are well aware of how much conflict and immature actions have taken place concerning that child. Not just within the family members, but also within law enforcement and within organizations. So I would have great consideration if I were trying to implement something that I would be more conscientious as though John Walsh and the other spokespersons for Americans have been. Because if you cannot have a clean slate and state the truth and keep your word, and you want a bill to represent all children, which that's what it would do if it's accepted nationally, then you cannot come out and state, we are not going to post a flyer for other children. You cannot be selfish. You cannot be two-sided. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, how can you state other missing children and persons are not as important as a law that you're trying to get passed, and you're unwilling, and you come on YouTube, particularly, and you state, I am not going to post a flyer of another missing individual, but yeah, I'm going to promote a legislative bill that reflects all children. You can't be both ways. You either have to keep your word and promote it for all children, even though it's a Sebastian's law. It's a one person's identification law, but it's for all persons. If you're going to participate in trying to get a bill passed, you must have the facts that your behavior, your attitudes, and your moral compass must include all missing individuals, must include empathy and sympathy for all children who are abused and missing, for all children who are neglected. Or, here's the deal, you're just doing it for self-promotion. You're not doing it for all children if it keeps on coming back to you personally. Either you promote it with the ideals of neglect and abuse for all children, or you're promoting it for yourself, based upon the fact that you want to be famous or you want to make money for a bill that you need to have passed. The general public in America will not support you because you're two-faced. If you're unwilling to post one flyer for any missing child, let's take Summer Wells for instance. You're unwilling to post a flyer for her as you're traveling to Tennessee, yet you want Americans to help you pass legislative bills nationally to support a database for neglected and missing children and abused children. Get real. You can't be wishy-washy. You can't be on both sides of the fence. You can't straddle it. Your character must provide and exhibit what your words are stating. Okay? You have to get away from you. It's not about you. If you're promoting this for all missing, abused, neglected children, it's not about you. You're not important. It doesn't matter. What do you think about that?
It's good.
Do you think that law should go nationally? Do you think we need a database for neglected and abused children?
If they don't have one already,
They don't.
well then they should make one. Then
They should make one.
they should. But like you said, it should be about the kids, not about individuals trying to promote this law or put in so they can be famous. No, it's about the kids. You need to. It's for the kids. Okay.
Now, you said that you've lived to be old.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to ask you to give me your opinion. And you have lived along the border.
Yeah.
You traveled to many places in the world.
Mm.
Can you give us a brief, knowledgeable idea about the cartel, gangsters, and mafia? Just briefly.
The cartels are violent entities that could care less about people. They traffic bodies for money to other, they sell bodies, okay? They sell kids. They traffic kids to other places in the world, you know? they sell them to rich people for sexual pleasures. Okay, for abuse. You know, so the cartels are very dangerous entities in this country, in the borders. Okay, they could care less. You know, they could care less.
The Mexican mafia?
They're about as bad. They're all the mafias are bad, Texana.
So let me ask you this question. If you have people out here playing on YouTube stating that they're a gangster, and
Oh, you mean they want to be gangsters?
they want to be, well, let me,
Want to be gangsters?
you and
Yeah.
I have seen, we know of the cartel. The children I worked with in El Paso were part of the cartel family, some of them. But here's the point. You have YouTubers, some YouTubers, who are on YouTube and they're calling themselves gangsters. I don't think what they realize, if they offend the mafia or true gangsters or true members of, let's say, the 13, I-13,
Yeah.
if they offend them in any manner, what do you think's going to happen?
They come after you, Tex.
They're going to come after you. Exactly. And that is nothing to play with.
Of course not. You leave the gangs alone. Don't people that want to be gangsters, you don't have no clue what you're talking about. Okay? You have no freaking clue. Okay? So leave that shit alone. Huh? Just be yourself. Don't be, oh, I want to be a gangster. No, you don't.
So, going back to the 60s or 52 through the 97, when you look at the New York, Chicago mob that we had here in the United States, what do you think the major difference is between the mob of the 50s through the 90s and the gangsters, the mafia, the Mexican mafia, the Russian mafia, and
Those were old school mafias, Texana.
yes,
Okay,
and what was their
those
belief?
those were Italian mafiosos. They believed in drugs and racketeering and all that shit. They didn't believe in swiping, taking people away. Okay, now that's not their. That wasn't their. That they didn't do that. Okay.
And what was their unspoken truth? No children and no women. They would,
That's the way they were back then, but not
yes,
anymore. It's because
no.
the cartels are different. They're totally different than the mafias of old back in the up in the New York area in the eastern part of the country. They're totally different. Okay, people don't understand. These are different. These are different gangs. These are different cartels. They don't care. They'll take fucking kids and women, and they'll sell them. Okay,
And they won't just sell them for sex. They sell them for organs.
they sell them. Period. Okay.
They sell them for organs. They sell them for domestic violence.
They sell them.
And a lot of people don't realize that along the border states, from Florida all the way to California, that the waterways are the most quickest ways to take humans and traffic them. Do you think that someone would listen to you if you gave them a warning and told them, hey, you need to be careful because you don't know what you're doing?
No, they don't. They wouldn't. They won't. They won't listen.
They won't listen?
No, until it happens to them, and then they realize, like, oh shit, I should have listened. But, and it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late sometimes. But mafia, mob, gangs, and the cartel are nothing to fool with. Especially if you're trying to act like one on YouTube. Because you have no idea who you may offend. Well, look at all those stars up there. A lot of stars.
It's time to go.
Yeah, it's late. Well, have a good morning, everyone. Bye-bye.